Okay, so today we're taking a deep dive into the world of pulp graders. Now, when you hear pulp grader, you might be picturing, I don't know, someone in a lab coat surrounded by beakers.
Yeah, not exactly the most glamorous image.
Right. But as it turns out, it's a lot more dynamic than you might think.
Way more. Pulp grader might sound kind of, desk jockey-ish, but it's actually a really crucial part of the entire paper production process.
Interesting.
Yeah, think about it. Every sheet of paper, every cardboard box, it all starts with raw pulp,
I
right?
get it, yeah.
And the pulp grader's job is to make sure that pulp is top-notch, that it meets these strict quality standards.
So they're kind of like the gatekeepers of quality for the whole paper industry.
Exactly. They make sure that whether you're printing a high-gloss magazine or packing something heavy-duty, that paper is going to perform the way it's supposed to.
Okay, so walk me through this. What does a typical day look like for a pulp grader?
So picture this. You're on the factory floor. It's humming with activity, maybe a little bit loud.
Oh, I bet.
And you've got these huge vats of pulp. Each one a different blend of wood fibers, chemicals, water, the whole 9 yards.
It's not just wood chips and water.
Nope, it's a whole science.
Interesting.
So you're going through these batches, running tests, analyzing the pulp to make sure it measures up.
I saw something in our research about fiber length and bleaching.
Hmm.
What exactly do those terms even mean when we're talking about pulp?
Good question. Fiber length is super important. Longer fibers usually mean you're going to get a stronger paper. Think like a grocery bag.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right. But then shorter fibers, those give you a smoother finish. Like if
Right.
you were printing a magazine, you'd want those shorter fibers.
Let's get those glossy pages.
Exactly. So it all depends on what that pulp is ultimately going to be used for.
Wow, so there's a lot of variety in the types of pulp.
Absolutely. And then you've got bleaching. That's all about the color. We all expect our paper to be this pristine white, right?
Of course.
Pulp graders make sure it gets there, but without weakening the paper in the process.
So there's a balance. You can't just bleach everything to oblivion.
Exactly. You've got to strike that balance between whiteness and strength.
It's an art and a science then.
I like that. I like that. It's a good way to put it.
So it's not just about staring through a microscope all day.
No, no, no. You're doing hands-on testing. You're analyzing data. You're working with some pretty sophisticated equipment. Your decisions actually affect the entire production line.
Wow, so a lot of responsibility.
Definitely. It's kind of like you're a detective, right? You're uncovering the secrets hidden in each batch of pulp
I love that analogy.
and then making sure it ends up being used for its best purpose.
It's almost like, and I'm just thinking out loud here, but like baking, right? Different ingredients are going to give you different results.
That's a great comparison. Just like you wouldn't use cake flour for a loaf of bread, you wouldn't use, say, oak pulp for something that needs to be super strong.
Because oak is a hardwood, right?
Exactly. Hardwoods tend to have those shorter fibers, better for things like writing paper. Softwoods, like pine, they have the longer, stronger fibers, better for packaging and stuff.
So a pulp grader really needs to be an expert in all the different types of wood and how they behave.
Absolutely.
That's fascinating. Okay, so we're starting to get a feel for the expertise involved here, but what about the job itself? Is it all sunshine and roses, or are there some downsides too?
Well, like any job, there are definitely pros and cons. On the plus side, pulp graders can earn a pretty decent salary.
Oh, so we're talking treat yourself kind of salary.
It can be, yeah. Skilled trades are in high demand, and as you gain experience, those salaries tend to go up.
Location probably plays a role too.
Or
I
for
bet.
sure. But even with a good salary, it's not always easy. I mean, our sources did mention working with chemicals. That's something to be aware of.
Definitely not a spa day.
Right. Safety is a huge priority in this field. Modern mills have tons of regulations, but you are working with chemicals and machinery. It's just the nature of the job.
So being comfortable with that environment is important.
Absolutely. Understanding and following those safety protocols is key.
Okay, so there's definitely a lot to consider there. What about long-term career prospects? Is this something you can do for years, or is it a dead-end job?
Not at all. There's actually a lot of room for growth. You can start as a trainee, then move up to junior pulp grader, and eventually you could become a senior pulp grader.
Okay, so there's a whole career ladder to climb.
Exactly. And you gain more responsibility and leadership opportunities along the way.
So tell me more about those different stages. What does that career path actually look like? So let's break it down. You start as a trainee, right? What's that like?
Yeah, so as a trainee, you're basically learning the ropes. You'll be shadowing more experienced pulp graders, getting a feel for the equipment, mastering those essential tests.
Lots of hands-on learning then,
Absolutely, you've got to get your hands dirty, literally.
I can imagine. So once you've got the basics down, what's next on this pulp grader journey?
Well, typically you'd move into a junior pulp grader role.
Okay.
And at that point, you're starting to take on more responsibility. You're doing more independent analysis, maybe even troubleshooting some of the smaller production issues that might pop up.
Oh, so you're not just following instructions anymore. You're starting to think on your feet.
Exactly. You're becoming more of a pulp detective, figuring out why a batch isn't quite right, working with the team to get things back on track.
I bet those communication skills come in handy at that stage.
Oh, huge
Ah,
time. You're constantly talking to the production crews, your supervisors, sometimes even the suppliers. Making sure everyone's on the same page is key.
it's a real team effort.
100%.
Okay, so we've gone from trainee to junior pulp grader. What's the pinnacle? What does it take to reach those senior pulp grader heights?
That's where you become the true expert, the mentor.
The pulp master.
I like that. You've seen it all, you've done it all, and now you're passing on that knowledge to the next generation. Overseeing teams, setting those grading standards, maybe even getting involved in some research projects.
Wow, so it's a very well-rounded role at that point.
Oh, for sure. And you're always learning, always staying ahead of the curve. New technologies, industry trends, you got to be on top of it all.
Speaking of new technologies, our research mentioned automation.
Hmm?
Is there a concern that robots are going to come for the pulp graders' jobs?
It's a valid question for sure. I mean, automation is impacting pretty much every industry these days.
Right.
But, while technology is definitely playing a bigger role in modern mills, it's not about replacing human expertise entirely.
It's more about humans and machines working together.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, you still need that deep understanding of pulp and paper making. You need someone who can analyze the data, think critically, troubleshoot those complex problems that inevitably come up.
So those human skills are still super valuable.
Absolutely. It's all about being adaptable, willing to learn new things, and work alongside those technological advancements.
So those who embrace the robots, so to speak, they're the ones who will thrive.
100%. Because think about it. Technology can help streamline things, make things more efficient, but it still takes a skilled pulp grader to interpret that data, to spot those inconsistencies, to make those crucial judgment calls that ultimately determine the quality of the final product.
So it's a career with staying power, as long as you're willing to evolve.
Exactly. And that's something we can actually dive into a little bit more in the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of pulp grading.
Right, picking up where we left off.
Exactly. We've talked about the day-to-day, the career path, but what about the personality side of things? What kind of person is actually well-suited to be a pulp grader?
Well, if you've always been fascinated by, the science behind everyday stuff, this could be a good fit.
Okay, interesting.
If you're into problem solving, love to get into the nitty-gritty details, that's important too.
Makes sense, because we're talking about very precise measurements, right?
Exactly. I mean, even the tiniest variation in the pulp can totally change the final product. So yeah, attention to detail is key.
So those who are super organized, maybe a little bit particular, those are the ones who thrive in this role.
Maybe. But it's not just about being a perfectionist. Remember, pulp graders are part of a team, so being a good communicator is super important too.
Right, you got to be able to work with the production crew, supervisors, everyone.
Exactly. You're all working together to create this high-quality product. And, with the way the industry is always evolving, new technologies, new sustainability practices, being adaptable is huge too.
So someone who's not afraid of change,
Yeah.
always willing to learn new things.
100%. That's the key to success in this field, for sure.
So it's a dynamic field then, not just stuck in the past.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much innovation happening right now. It's a really exciting time to be involved in the pulp and paper industry.
Like what kind of innovations are we talking about? Give me some examples.
Well, think about all the eco-friendly packaging that's popping up everywhere. Pulp graders are playing a huge role in developing those materials.
Oh, that's right. Sustainable packaging is so important these days.
Absolutely. And it's not just about packaging. People are exploring bio-based alternatives to plastics, finding all sorts of innovative uses for pulp. It's really amazing.
It's like pulp is having a moment.
It really is. And pulp graders are at the forefront of all that innovation. They're the ones making sure those new materials meet the highest standards.
So for those listening who are like, okay, this is really cool, but I'm not about to switch careers tomorrow, What's a good way to dip their toes into the world of pulp and paper, just to learn a little bit more?
Oh, there are tons of ways. I mean, start by checking out the websites of some of these companies that are doing really innovative things with sustainable paper and packaging.
That's a great idea. You can learn a lot just by seeing what's out there.
Exactly. And if you're feeling really adventurous, a lot of universities and industry organizations offer workshops or even short courses on pulp and paper making.
So you can get some hands-on experience.
Absolutely. I mean, you never know. You might discover a hidden talent for analyzing fiber length.
You never know. Well, I think that about wraps it up for our deep dives into the world of pulp graders. We've learned so much about this often overlooked profession.
It's been a pleasure sharing my insights.
And a huge thank you to everyone listening. Whether you're considering a career change or just wanted to learn something new, we hope you found this deep dive both informative and engaging.
Absolutely.
Until next time, stay curious.